Carrie should have ended up with Aiden. Or maybe not. There has been an ongoing discourse about who Carrie's ideal partner should be, especially when it's clear even after 25 years that Big is far from it. Many fans believe Aiden should have been Carrie's endgame. His sweet, thoughtful, and loving behavior towards her is why so many people root for him, either to end up with Carrie or to find someone who would truly appreciate him. But what if I told you there's something hidden beneath the perfect image Aiden projects in every round? First, second, third, and even fourth with Carrie. Today we're going to talk about Aidan Shaw from Sex and the City. Is he genuinely a loving partner, or is he trying to prove something by repeatedly getting back together with her?
His name was Aiden Shaw. He was warm, masculine, and classic American, just like his furniture.
Aiden is introduced in the show as a refreshing change from what happened with Mr. Big, who had recently married another woman, leaving Carrie stranded and confused. Aiden enters Carrie's life to show what consistent, caring, and devoted love looks like, something she apparently had never experienced before. From the beginning, we see that Aiden takes Carrie seriously and genuinely wants to make her feel cared for. This becomes evident when he decides to take things slow, choosing to get to know her and romance her in a way Carrie finds unsettling. She's used to fast-paced, emotionally intense situations, so this actually threw her off quite a lot. And right away, we begin to notice the fundamental differences between them. Aiden is more traditional and grounded, drawn to stable, standard relationships, which is an intense contrast to the eclectic lifestyle and emotional chaos that defines Carrie. If their lives are so fundamentally different from the outset, the road ahead is bound to be an uphill battle. Aiden introducing Carrie to his parents seems like a sweet gesture, especially when compared to the hermetic secrecy she encountered with Big. But to be honest, Aiden begins to make some of the same mistakes Carrie experienced with Big. He rushes into commitment in a way that feels unearned and too quick. Carrie is understandably scared, not just because she's unaccustomed to healthy, easy relationships, but because when things move that fast, it often feels like a trap. And to be fair, it's not that Aiden isn't well-intentioned, especially during their first time together. He was present, loving, and as I mentioned in my Carrie video, genuinely tried to improve her life by helping her address some of her personal issues. And I love how Sex and the City uses Carrie's apartment as a metaphor for her boundaries and emotional well-being. When Aiden entered her life, he quickly noticed the cracks, literal and metaphorical, in her space. These weren't issues Carrie paid much attention to. In fact, she barely noticed them. Aiden wanted to fix her apartment in the same way he wanted to fix her life. He asked her to stop smoking, which is something she didn't see a problem with either. While this gesture may seem sweet and thoughtful, they aren't entirely selfless. He suggested improvements can be seen not just as acts of care, but also as a way to slowly carve out a place for himself in her world. While remodeling her apartment, Aiden assured Carrie that there would be minimal disruptions. In reality, the disruptions were anything but minimal, prompting Carrie to flee to a hotel where, as we all unfortunately know, this happened. Aiden was trying to fix Carrie's life in order to be a part of it, or better yet, to mold Carrie into something who could fit into his life. He didn't accept her smoking or the cracks in her ceiling, and stepped in to fix things she had never asked to be fixed. Sure, it wasn't healthy for her to ignore those quote-unquote defects, but it also wasn't his decision to change them. And I'm not siding completely with Carrie here. As much as I understand where she's coming from, I'm not going to excuse her more questionable choices. But through her smoking, her lifestyle, and even her fashion choices, we see that Carrie has made a conscious decision to stick with certain habits, even when they're not healthy, and that's one of her biggest flaws. The presence, and in some ways the intrusion of someone like Aiden, who is well-intentioned but imposing, can end up being detrimental to both of them rather than healing for her. Because let's be honest, beyond love, chemistry, and the shared love of drama, Aiden and Carrie are fundamentally incompatible. He's a homebody, a country boy, and a traditional man who dreams of marriage, kids, and a dog. goals that are in direct opposition to what Carrie wants and how she lives. Sadly, this isn't far from reality. In many relationships, we're expected to adapt entirely to our partner's life, rather than merge both lives in a way that truly works for both. And this case is no different. It's never openly stated, but it's clear that Aiden would have eventually asked Carrie to adapt to his way of life, which is something that would have made her miserable. As messy as she may be, Carrie isn't a conventional woman. She's happy with her life, giving up her vibrant experiences, her column, her friends, her city life. For a partner who expects domesticity would have killed her spirit. After Carrie cheated on Aiden with Big, the incident that ultimately ended their relationship, Aiden felt he couldn't forgive her. The future he had imagined for them was shattered in an instant, and he chose to walk away. Which it was one of the few times Aiden truly put himself first. But unfortunately, it wouldn't be the last time for either of them.
When you see a ghost, you just know it. You can feel it. The hairs on the back of your neck stand up.
On their second round, we're far less moved by the drama that was caused by the love triangle between Carrie, Big, and Aiden. And we get to see more of a development of their relationship and their day-to-day as a couple. And here is where most of the differences get exposed, and where a lot of people should have a better perspective of their incompatibilities. Carrie and Aiden briefly met during a quick double date he had with Steve. From this interaction only, you can tell he was visibly distraught by Carrie's presence, even when she's trying to make it lighter with her quick-wit comments. After this meeting, they see each other again in the opening of Steve and Aiden's bar. Carrie sees that he looks better and remembers the good times they had together, and impulsively goes to his home and asks him to take her back. And he tells her this.
You holding me and...
You broke my heart!
Which would be a tad aggressive, but a real way to close off the relationship between them. But no. Aiden goes to Carrie's home to ask her to try again, and this is how they start dating again. Which in itself comes with challenges that are a mix between insecurities of the past and the uncertainty of the future. After they've been together for some time, Carrie receives the dreaded but very calculated call from Mr. Big, the man Carrie cheated on Aiden with. And that, with a good reason, makes Aiden visibly uncomfortable, and acts in a way uncharacteristic of him. He starts flirting with the waitress at Scout and is rude and cold towards Carrie, as a preventive punishment from what happened in the past between Carrie and Big and from what assumed would probably happen in the future, which I completely understand to a certain extent. However, it's not the most mature way to handle a situation like this. This situation shows that Aiden jumped too quickly to go back to Carrie at the detriment of his own mental and emotional well-being. A good example of this is Carrie having the great idea of inviting Big into his country house, Aiden's country house, with the pretense of being friends. Although nothing happens between them, there's a huge lack of respect that Carrie has towards Aiden by doing this, and a huge lack of self-respect that he allows it to happen. When he moved into Carrie's apartment, we noticed not only the visual representation I mentioned before, but also quite a literal one. Not only Aiden's stuff was occupying most of Carrie's apartment, but also as soon as she opens the door, he jumps into her space asking her questions about her day, leaving her almost no space to breathe between them in an already small apartment. This clearly shows that Aiden shows his affection kinda like a dog. He can be overbearing, invasive, and consuming, which for some people will be fine, but for someone selectively independent gearing towards avoidance like Carrie, this behavior could be exhausting. And to be honest, I'm Team Carrie here. I need my space, and I can see how this is bothersome for her even if it's not bad per se. And this is a thing Big did provide Carrie with, space. Albeit a little too much since Carrie was the one looking to get closer to him. As I mentioned in my Carrie video, Aiden is not necessarily a bad partner, that he's one that has different needs than Carrie, and that he's expecting Carrie to meet them when he should know she wouldn't be able to do it. Aiden didn't really know Carrie, and that's exemplified by the ring he got her. And I'm aware that men tend to be not as attentive to details as women are socialized to be, and I'm also aware that Miranda helped Aiden pick the ring. But in a way, Carrie was right. If he was going to take the bold step to propose to Carrie, he should have known that the ring he bought wasn't at all like her. And this is beyond materialism. It's more about how Aiden saw Carrie as an individual versus as what he wanted her to be in his life. And by the end of their relationship, we get to see the real reason why Aiden asked Carrie to marry him. He wanted to marry her not only because he loved her, but he also used the wedding plans as a way to lock in Carrie so he can feel safe with her again. And again, I'm not excusing him, but it makes sense that after going through the betrayal he went with her on their first round, he has sort of a self-protection response once that unfortunately for him, Carrie saw right through, and after knowing that, she knew she couldn't continue a relationship when the trust wasn't there. Because she destroyed it by cheating on Aiden, but still. Coming back from something as heavy as trust and betrayal is a good reason to part ways and find better suited partner that really understands our needs. But something that Carrie and Aiden have in common is their propensity to get stuck in vicious cycles that can last decades, and this is why we have.
And there in the middle of old Abu Dhabi was an old love, Aiden.
Round 3 isn't exactly a full round. It's more like an idea of one. Aiden and Carrie reunite in Abu Dhabi in a movie I personally prefer to believe that never happened. They bump into each other at the market in a moment that feels like fate to both of them, and agree to meet for dinner later that evening. During dinner, Aiden admits that his wife knows Carrie is, quote-unquote, the one that got away, and keeps tabs on her. First of all, red flag. Second, it's honestly kind of weird that he's openly telling his wife that he once wanted to marry someone else and still thinks about it. That night, Aiden flirts with Carrie pretty aggressively and eventually kisses her. Something Carrie decides to stop before it goes any further, choosing not to cheat on Big with Aiden, which would have been the one hell of a lunar reverse from Aiden's side, to be honest. But even from this brief interaction, it's clear that Aiden hasn't gotten over Carrie, and probably never will. The fact that even his current wife knows about Carrie and her importance in his life says a lot. So, in a way, it's not all that surprising that they eventually ended up having one more round. This meeting is less accidental than the previous one, but it still follows a pattern that 2000s era Carrie is all too familiar with, reaching out to Aiden when the void left by Big makes her feel empty. To be completely honest, it's both odd and a little sad to see that Aiden is willing to try again with Carrie after Mr. Big dies. Because what that really tells us is that the only way Aiden feels safe enough to give their relationship yet another shot is when his direct competition is finally gone for good. And even then, he doesn't even feel entirely safe. As soon as he walks into Carrie's old apartment, all the feelings from the past come rushing back. Cheating, the rejected proposal, Carrie's emotional avoidance in her 30s. We finally get a visual cue of what this endless back and forth with Carrie has done to him. It left him broken and deeply unsatisfied. Despite all the years that have passed, he's still haunted by the pain of that era. And that should have been reason enough to finally let Carrie go. To move on and find peace. But that's not what he does. They try again. The cute banter is still there, as long as they avoid the subject of Carrie's apartment. And that's one of the biggest problems. Every trace of the past is painful. Neither of them wants to confront the discomfort of admitting they've tried before, more than once, and failed each time. Carrie meets his kids and even his ex-wife, and it's very telling when she warns Carrie not to hurt Aiden again. At this point, it's pretty evident that Aiden has zero self-preservation when it comes to Carrie. And unlike her 30-year-old self, this time Carrie seems open, ready to make space not just for Aiden but also for his children and his ex-wife. She even sells her iconic apartment and buys a new place to adapt to this new life with him. But the damage has already been done in so many ways. And Aiden, true to form, plays this game of willful ignorance when it comes to Carrie so well that every time she hurts him, it still managed to catch him off guard. His choice to finally put his kids first is ironically the healthiest move Aiden has ever made. He chooses to be present for the family he already built. But asking Carrie to wait for him, now that they're both in their 50s and 60s, feels like a clear sign that they were never meant to be. Continuing to try after all this time only prolongs a hope that should have been laid to rest after their first breakup, let alone the second. This time, it's Carrie trying to keep the relationship alive, long distance. She's now sharing Aiden with his family, never knowing when it's the right time to reach out to him again. And it's no better when they're together. As much as Aiden tries to include her in his family life, he also drags her into the chaos that comes with it. The distance, the lifestyle differences, it all adds up. For someone like Carrie who thrives in a vibrant cosmopolitan life, sitting quietly and waiting for someone simply isn't sustainable. And sure enough, the relationship starts to fall apart again. This time because Aiden sleeps with Kathy while they're apart. But that's not even the worst part. For some reason, Aiden expects Carrie to wait for him, quote-unquote, the old way, not dating, nor seeing anybody else, as if they're in some vintage romance novel, which makes absolutely no sense because they're in their 50s. Waiting shouldn't be part of the equation anymore. And what follows is a pattern that has plagued them from the beginning. They recognize that there is a problem, acknowledge it vaguely, and they just move on. Never having the hard conversations until those repressed emotions boil over and destroy whatever nice relationship they've managed to build. And it's frustrating to see this cycle repeat yet again. We know they don't work. They're too different to function as a couple. Aiden is drowning in family drama that is consuming his emotional and mental energy, and Carrie has finally met someone, Duncan, her neighbor and fellow writer, who actually seems aligned with her lifestyle and ambitions in a way we haven't seen since Burger. Aiden and Carrie share nothing but chemistry and a painful, tangled story full of false starts and unresolved issues. Beyond that, they have nothing in common. That's why Carrie never wanted to marry Aiden in the first place. Deep down, she mostly saw him as the guy who loved her and who was always going to make space for her. And Aiden, in a way that mirrors Steve's dynamic with Miranda, puts Carrie on a pedestal, regardless of how she's treated him. He saw Carrie the way Carrie saw Big, as someone whose mere proximity may transform him into the kind of man worthy of being with her, and worthy of being part of what she represented in his mind. And I'm only on episode 8 of season 3 of And Just Like That, so maybe I'm jumping the gun. But I have a feeling we're not going to see a great version of Aiden in the episodes ahead. He's already starting to show signs of jealousy towards Duncan, and that's rarely a good sign. What bothers me the most is that after all these years, Aiden still doesn't seem to know who Carrie really is. He's still stuck in the illusion of what he wanted their story to be. But let's face it, that illusion of a happy ending with Carrie is just that, an illusion. One that's slowly being swallowed by reality with each episode.
Hey, Carrie, you up there? Okay, let's give it a shot.
Really?
There's always something getting in the way of the relationship, and Aiden's willingness to keep trying is no longer seen as romantic. It feels more like an attempt to keep alive something that should have been left in the past, even if the love between them still lingers. The idea of someone never getting over an old partner may seem romantic at first. It can even be flattering if you're the object of that affection. But it's also incredibly sad to see a story start over so many times without even reaching a healthy, fulfilling conclusion. And even though we're only about 3 or 2 episodes away from the And Just Like That season 3 finale, it's looking like this one won't end well either. I won't deny that Aiden's feelings for Carrie are genuine, but they're being placed above his own emotional and mental well-being. And that's something we started to see all the way back when he first took Carrie back after she cheated. Because if he's still pining over Carrie nearly 30 years later, it's not a sign of deep undying love. It's a sign that he's stuck in a time pretending that what happened between them didn't already fail. People often criticize Carrie for being stuck in the past and never growing out of who she used to be. But honestly, I don't think they've really looked at Aiden in his 60s. He's the one who's truly refusing to let the past die, even as life is clearly telling him to shift focus elsewhere. And to be honest, this has always been a pattern with Aidan Shaw. He's caring, loving, attentive, and a good partner, yes, but he will be a better partner to someone whose values and lifestyle are more aligned with his own. His insistence on staying with Carrie doesn't come off as romantic anymore. It comes off as desperate, naive, and frankly, tragic, especially for his character development. Carrie represents a persistent wound in Aiden's life, one he keeps trying to heal, whether out of love, ego, or the belief that he owes something to his younger self. But this constant battle is leaving him exhausted and emotionally depleted, while pulling his focus away from the life he's already built and the kids who still need him. At some point, Aiden has to accept the truth. Whatever ideal he had about a life with Carrie was lost the first time they broke up, and clinging to that dream now will only rob him of what's left to the life he can still enjoy. He needs to accept that some loves are meant to last and even survive the test of time, but others, for our own well-being, our personal growth, and yes, even for the sake of the plot, are better left behind. Sometimes the only healthy way to look at them is through a rearview mirror. And that's it. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Bye-bye.